Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily, the day before the eve of Christmas. Joined by the ghost of bass, Patrick Henry. Gordon, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's God, what a wild few weeks. What a wild year. This year has been crazy. I mean, this has been a nutty year. Not the year I expected it to be, but it's been a good year regardless. But
yeah, this has been a definitely a year to remember, and it's only getting better as the days go on. And we got some good news today, so we'll dive into that for sure. But before we do that, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors for today. And first up, we've got our friends over at CBD Distillery. If there's ever a sale that you needed right now, this is it. CB Distillery's end of the year sales on now, where you can save up to 50% on everything with promo code Rumble. If the holiday chaos, late nights, and family parties have left you feeling stressed and sleepless, it's time for CBD from CB Distillery. They've got natural solutions for just about everything. Better sleep, less stress, and more calm, improved mood and focus, pain relief after workouts, even CBD for your beloved pets. I take the tinctures and my pets take the tinctures, and we take the gummies, and we absolutely love it in the Lupo household. CB Distillery is different. Their hemp is grown right here in the U.S., third-party tested and free from artificial dyes or fillers, just clean, premium CBD solutions, and that is why I trust them. Seriously, don't miss this sale right now. Treat yourself and save up to 50% on everything. Head to cbdistillery.com and use promo code Rumble. cbdistillery.com, promo code Rumble. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. All right, and then let's check out our friends over. Let's do a little switch up here, and let's have a little soft disclosure.
Soft disclosure, just dropped new favorites for the season. The lotion, your 5-ounce favorite, is still here. And now we've added full 11-ounce bottles. New lavender tea tree deodorant, clean, calm, and effective. New tallow bars, chamomile lemon rose, and naked. Rich moisture that actually works. And now, the lineup is complete. Beard oil in unscented and spiced vanilla. Palo lip balms, available in chamomile mint, vanilla, naked, and vanilla tangerine. Palo bar minis for pocket-ready hydration. Available in vanilla coffee and naked. And finally, lavender vanilla lotion. Clean, calm, and made to work. Visit softdisclosure.com. Use code BADLANDS. And get 15% off. Soft Disclosure, for truth you can gift.
All right, softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands. If you guys have a beard, even if it's not as long as mine, and just like more of like a John beard or an alpha beard, get you some of the beard oil. It is absolutely fantastic. Get out of the shower while your beard's still a little damp, lather it in. and it will feel so soft. And I'll tell you right now, man, I love that stuff. And the best part is it doesn't stay on your hands for like hours. You know, like you put beard oil in, and usually it'll stay on your hands. Just run your hands under some hot water and dry them on a towel, and you're good to go.
I might grow a beard just so I can experience that sensation.
Can you grow a beard? Are you?
Oh
are
yeah.
You
Oh yeah. Dude,
young?
my old like profile picture or whatever on the website, like I had a full beard. I had a full beard for like 7 straight years. And
Really?
I think my wife woke up one day and was like, "How long have you had a beard for?" And I was like, "I don't know, like maybe like 5 years."
Oh
And
man.
yeah. But like I never had a beard. Like I never had a beard, and then one day I just had one, and I just like didn't shave it for like 5 years, and it didn't get like as long as yours. I mean, I trimmed it, but yeah. And then
I think you should grow it back, man.
and then like it was like right when I started podcasting a couple of years ago, I shaved it, and I just never. It's like once it starts coming in, it kind of looks scraggly at first, so I always just end up shaving it.
Oh, you gotta commit. You gotta commit, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta commit. Get
Yeah.
past the itchy stage, and then you're good to go.
Yep.
All right, guys. So the first story I want to start out with today, and Gordon, you're probably the perfect person to talk about this with, but President Trump is just rugging everybody, man. Like left and right. We had the rug last week where President Trump was going to, do this announcement, and Tucker Carlson leaks that it's going to be a declaration of war on Venezuela, which, obviously anybody that knows the Constitution knows the president doesn't have that authority. But, in some form or fashion, he was going to be announcing military conflict with Venezuela. And of course, we got rugged on that. And instead, we get the ushering in of the golden age. President Trump prophesizing the golden age that's going to come in the next year. By the way, silver just broke $70 this morning. Huge, 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 huge. I mean, that's unbelievable. Anybody that, has been listening to Badlands for a while, I told you guys back when it was in the low 20s. I told you guys I'm hot on silver.
That's when I bought in. Yeah.
You guys would have had 300% gains if you invested in silver. Thankfully, I put a big chunk of my savings in silver, and I am ecstatic about it right now. There it is. Jessica put it in the chat. Badlandsgold.com. Guys, it's still going to go higher. I think it's going to hit 100, probably sometime mid next year. Dude, if you guys would have listened, 300%. But anyways, so President Trump's ushering in this golden age, right? Then the next day, well, we also got the marijuana declassification, which was beautiful. Then we get the speech about not the speech, but the press conference with the most favored nation status, where he puts all the big pharma shills on blast, makes them stand up there in a humiliation ritual, and exposes to the American public how badly they've been ripping us off. I saw in one of the comments yesterday somebody saying you need to go by percentages, and yeah, these are, you're seeing 4 and 5 digit percentage increases in the cost that they were pushing on the American people. It's criminal. It's bottom line, it's criminal. Then we get another rug pull as President Trump announces a press conference with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and John Phelan, the Secretary of the Navy. And everybody's thinking, okay, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one where President Trump, the neocons, get their, they get their boner pill, right? They get the war in Venezuela. We can't have war with Iran, but we'll get war with Venezuela. And what does Trump do? Trump comes out there and just gives the ultimate rug yet again and announced the new Trump-class fleet of battleships. I'm so here for it, man. He's just a master class at mentally breaking down these neocons and the mainstream Mockingbird media.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't, I mean, if you're following Badlands, even if you're new here, like if you haven't picked up on this is what he does. This is the pattern. It's like he telegraphs that he's going this way, and then he ends up going that way. And everyone's waiting for him over here, and he ends up sneaking up behind him and tapping on the shoulder and being like, "Sup?" All right, let's start with the big pharma thing, because I kind of want to address like everything you just said. That was a great breakdown. The pharma thing is a perfect place to start because I think it's a great example of Trump leveraging these factions against one another. Because if you go back and you listen to the speech, I listened to the whole thing. I think I actually listened to it twice. I listened to at least that one part twice. He announces TrumpRx.com, like the website. And basically what
.gov.
.gov. I'm sorry, .gov. And it's what it sounds like is it sounds like EasyRx, doc, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just buying directly from the pharma manufacturers. Now, the purpose of that, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on this subject, but as I understand it, he wasn't actually attacking big pharma in that speech. He was attacking the insurance companies in that speech. And he was talking about how insurance companies are a scam and the entire insurance industry is a scam. And they're actually like the middlemen, I think is what he used, the word he used to describe them. And they're actually the ones that are gouging Americans. And he's 100% right. I mean, I know people who work in pharma and I've had these conversations with them. And basically, even from the perspective of like the salesperson who works for the pharmaceutical companies, they like their income, which is tied to like how many scripts, their doctors prescribe, is totally set by the insurance coverage in their area. Right. So if they're in an area, if you're selling in an area where people have good insurance plans, you're going to make money. If you're selling in an area that's like Medicare and Medicaid, it's like you're kind of screwed. You're not going to make any money. So even they are beholden to the insurance companies. So Trump is cutting the insurance companies out and basically being like, you're going to buy directly from pharma. And I've negotiated favored nation status with pharma. So they're going to sell you the cheapest price and insurance is out of the picture. That is huge. And that explains also why Trump has been rubbing elbows with Albert Bourla and these COVID vaccine shills, because he's basically leveraging that relationship to benefit people who actually need the prescriptions because some prescriptions are, not every prescription is poison. There's plenty of poison in big pharma, but some of it is necessary. All right. The Navy ship, like the Trump class freight, I wrote like one of my longest takes of the year in the news brief this morning. And I ran through, I spent some time researching it. There are only 2 incidents in the history of naval warfare where fleets of battleships fought one another. 2. And that would be yeah, isn't that crazy? And if you expand that to a much broader definition of combat, like single ships dueling, ships exchanging fire but not being damaged, ships exchanging fire and maybe like slightly damaged, ships malfunctioning and their guns not working and they have to leave, the total number of conflicts goes up to between 6 and 8, depending on who you ask. So no more.
Are we talking like battleship versus battleship, or are we talking
battleship versus battleship? So the 2 battles would be the battle of. So it was a battle in the Russian-Japanese War in 1905. That was the first time that modern battleships met. And that was the Japanese versus the Russians. The Japanese lost no battleships. The Russians lost all 11 of their battleships, 5,000 soldiers. And they had to sue for peace immediately. It ended the war. The second time that it happened, it was the Battle of the Jutland, which is in 1916 in the North Sea. It was between Britain and Germany. And basically it was like both sides claimed victory. Both sides lost a few ships. Both sides claimed victory. So it was indecisive. The Japanese-Russian battle was the only decisive battle where you had, and here I'll share my screen of what, like, there's a painting of that. And then there's a distant third that some people consider. So here's what this is the Battle of Tsushima, which is 1905. So this is the Japanese versus the Russians. And then the third battle is the Battle of, I think it's called the Leyte Gulf or the Late Gulf. It's actually 4 different battles that happened over 3 days in World War II, at the end of World War II. And basically, long story short, there were like 35. The U.S. had 35 carriers, if you include light carriers and converted carriers and stuff. 8 fleet carriers. The Japanese had 4 carriers, only one of which was a fleet carrier. And of those 4 battles, only one of them actually had battleships on both sides. The Japanese had 1 battleship. The U.S. had a bunch. And it was, a U.S. victory. So the point is like, we really actually haven't had that many battleship versus battleship, but the apex of the battleship, like as the weapon of war, was World War I. And then even during World War I in 1910, the U.S. was taking planes were taking off from the deck of cruisers. By the time World War I came along, they were already converting cruisers into basically like makeshift aircraft carriers. By the 1920s, they were building aircraft carriers, and by the 1940 was the very last time we ordered a battleship. That was the USS Missouri, the Mighty Mo, which is where the Japanese surrendered at the end of World War II. Point is that battleships were obsolete as soon as aircraft carriers came along. We've now come full circle. I had this conversation with Oak several times. The battleship, I mean, the aircraft carrier is now becoming obsolete because hypersonic missiles, you have 5,000 guys on a battleship, and all it takes is one hypersonic missile getting through the defenses to take out an aircraft carrier. Plus, you know, like next generation fighters are going to be vertical takeoff. They don't need a runway. So you think about building a heavily armored ship because they're going to be facing all kinds of new kind of weaponry, rail guns, which basically slings metal at like hypersonic speed with no explosive, warhead on it. Hypersonic missiles, lasers, drones. Building a heavily armored ship that is shaped in such a way that it can deflect that kind of like high velocity, projectile. That's where it's going to head. And then you outfit those ships with, like I said, rail guns, which is like magnets, lasers, hypersonic missiles, drones, maybe some manned aerial vehicles. That's the future, I think, of naval warfare, it seems like. And so the battleship has actually come full circle. Trump mentioned this during his speech to all the generals and the admirals in September, and the military media people laughed at him. They were like, who is this guy think he is bringing back the battleship? But the more I was thinking about it yesterday, I was like, this makes actually all the sense in the world. The aircraft carrier is obsolete.
Yeah, it says the CNN report here says it's fitted with guns and missiles at the highest level, hypersonic weapons, electric rail guns, cruise missiles, and the most sophisticated lasers in the world. The new battleship will be the largest ever built, Trump said. They will each weigh between 30 and 40,000 tons and will be built in the United States. Quote, they'll be very AI controlled, he said without explanation. We envision that these ships will be the first of a whole new class of ships to be produced in the years to come. They're going to call them the Trump class. The Navy will build 2 of the Trump class ships, quickly followed by 8 more. Trump said he envisioned 20 to 25 of the vessels, which he said will become the flagship of the American naval fleet. And he also said he would work to update American aircraft carriers as part of the Golden Fleet update for the U.S. Navy.
Yeah. By the way, they tried to do this with the Mighty Mo in 1984. They reactivated it. They brought it out of retirement.
Yep.
And they put cruise missiles on it. They tried to outfit it with missiles. It served in the Gulf War in the early 90s, but it was still obsolete because aircraft carriers could take it out. So it works if you're not going up against aircraft carriers. But anyway.
Yeah, the old days of the I don't know what size they are, 20-inch guns, whatever they were, that they used to bombard. Like what comes to mind for me being a Marine is the island hopping campaign in World War II, where they would soften targets. Iwo Jima was, blasted by the battleships for hours before anybody actually made landfall, trying to penetrate the bunkers that they built and all that. And so to see these ships being reemergent, 16-inch guns. There we go. Thank you. Reemerging, to see battleships reemerge, but with much more sophisticated and defensive weapons, right? You're getting the weapons now that especially with the AI aspect of it, that will be able to control and defend against hypersonic missiles, especially. I mean, one hypersonic missile could take out, like you said, an entire aircraft carrier. And now you're losing a squadron of fighters. You're losing all the support aircraft. You're losing 5,000 sailors. Yeah. So it's a big deal. And this is an interesting pivot from President Trump. And like you said, recently all we've really had in terms of firepower from ships, other than, support, is destroyers. And these battleships are going to be much bigger than the destroyers. They're going to be able to carry a bigger payload and way more sophistication. And that's one of the things Trump has hit on is China's massively expanding their Navy. And we've been kind of dormant in that expansion. I mean, the Gerald Ford, sure, that came out, but other than that, there hasn't been much innovation in our naval fleet. So I welcome it. And the rug pull's awesome because the neocons were hoping they were getting their war announcement and they got rugged.
I mean, dude, what a movie I would recommend people watching, which is a great movie, is Greyhound. It's Tom Hanks, so I get that, and it came out like 5 years ago. But it's a true story about like what it was like in World War II to cross the Atlantic and basically you would get to a point where the planes overhead would be flying overhead, and as long as you had planes overhead, the submarines couldn't get you. But they called it the pit, where the planes would turn around. The American planes would turn around and go back, and then you'd have to wait like a day before the British planes could get to you. And that was where all the German subs would hang out, and they would come up from the bottom. And so you'd have these massive armadas like moving across the Atlantic, and these German subs would be hunting them. It's a really, really well done movie. But it kind of gives you a sense of like how important like submarines are as opposed to battleships, right? So
I'll have to check that out. All right. As we move on, I do want to just give you guys a quick heads up. I will be live tomorrow morning on Christmas Eve. I will not be live on Christmas Day. And then Friday we'll have a shortened show as well. I think Chris Paul's going to be here, but he might not be able to make it. So I'll keep you guys updated on X about that. So Wednesday, normal hours. Friday, normal hours. No show on Thursday. My wife would absolutely kill me if I did a show on Christmas Day. Yeah. All right. So from Just the News, John Brennan's lawyers confirm he is a target of a Florida grand jury probe and asks the judge to intervene. John Brennan's lawyers confirmed their client is a quote unquote target of a criminal grand jury investigation in Florida and are asking the chief federal judge in Miami to stop the proceedings on the grounds that the Justice Department is quote unquote judge shopping. The revelations come in a letter that defense lawyers sent to U.S. District Judge Cecilia M. Altanaga, a George W. Bush appointee. The grand jury is investigating Brennan's role in the 2016-2017 Russia collusion probe, including a CIA assessment that claimed Putin tried to help Trump win the 2016 election. And just for a quick recap, whistleblower evidence released by DNI Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe has called into question that assessment, revealing that career intelligence experts disagreed with the conclusions made in the rushed report released to the public at the end of the Obama administration. Now, I want to jump over here real quick to the letter that was actually written. It's a 17-page letter, and they go through here and they list out a couple reasons why this proceeding should stop. And the first one here is that, or excuse me, the third one on this list is to protect Judge Cannon from the litigation around the recusal motion that will inevitably be filed if and when she assumes any judicial role over the matter. They're so terrified about Judge Cannon getting this case that they're preemptively going after her and trying to say that if she is appointed to this case, that she should recuse herself. And the reason for the first prong will argue that Judge Cannon's demonstrated patterns of favoring Donald Trump litigation positions. Because she ruled in favor of Donald Trump, she needs to recuse herself. That's kind of dramatic. And establishes a reasonable basis for questioning her impartiality, thereby requiring her recusal to protect both our client's rights and perceived legitimacy of the criminal process. So there's the first one. If you want to comment on that, Gordon.
Well, I mean, I was going to say Yahtzee. I did not see this, that this was happening with John Brennan. So I appreciate you bringing this to my attention.
I just saw it this morning. Alpha tipped me off to it.
It must have just broke because I was, I told you I was busy. I was busy all night, so I was monitoring things, and I didn't see that. But man, like this is just signal. And you talk about a key player, in my opinion, in 9/11 and many of the other national tragedies that we've endured over our lifetimes, your lifetime, my lifetime. This is a big one. Getting John Brennan, I think, is a major cog. Not to say that there aren't massive players over him, but just from a public facing standpoint, I mean, he's a name now that I think anyone who tracks this stuff knows. So
100%.
That's a scalp that I think MAG has been waiting for a while.
Yeah. So the second part of it here says the second prong will argue for Judge Cannon's recusal based on the fact that she would be a potential fact witness to conduct underlying the government's supposed conspiracy case. To charge that case with any semblance of proper venue in Florida, the government presumably intends to claim that the Mar-a-Lago classified document search, which took place in Palm Beach, and the resulting prosecution of President Trump in the Fort Pierce division were acts in furtherance of that conspiracy. Indeed, the only conceivable link between such a conspiracy theory and the Fort Pierce division would be the actual prosecution of the classified documents case, which is identified by proponents of this conspiracy theory as one of the acts by which the conspirators politicized and weaponized law enforcement to take out Trump. Given that Judge Cannon presided over that prosecution, she would be arguably a fairly central fact witness to that part of the charged conspiracy and therefore have to recuse herself from the proceedings. I don't know that, the case was brought in that district because that's where the evidence was found. That's where the classified documents were allegedly, being held. I don't know how Cannon being assigned the case. This is just kind of weird. And it's probably legalese a little bit above my pay grade, but it just doesn't make much sense to me why this would cause her to be recused. I don't know that any case has been brought about the handling of the conspiracy case in Fort Pierce, but I don't know. I do want to play one clip here. Well, actually, I got to find this clip because I had it and then I deleted it, and there it is. I got it back again. No, wait. No, I don't have it back. Oh, bear with me. I'm sorry, guys. I accidentally closed out this tab, and it's an important tab because it's there it is. I got it. Okay. So it says fourth, to protect against the government's apparent flouting of grand jury rules as reflected in the ongoing leaking of information about the Miami grand jury's activities. That leaking was evident in the October statements of private citizen Mike Davis, in which he detailed the nature and purpose of the grand jury's investigation, the nature and purpose. Okay. And then it cites specifically to an interview that Mike Davis did with Maria Bartiromo. And let's go ahead and check out this interview, and we'll play. It's 5 minutes long, but it's mostly Matt Taibbi speaking. So we'll skip forward and let's see what Mike Davis actually discloses here, and if that's anything that would be, counter to detrimental to the grand jury.
$1,000.
Fine, this country.
And he said it happened to him 3 times. Mike, is all of this connected? We've been covering, obviously, the Russia collusion lie for a decade, and my viewers are well aware that it was.
By the way, this is on October 12th.
Fake from day one. But do you think this is all connected? And is this enough to create a conspiracy charge against Jim Comey and his friends who were part of that cabal?
Yeah, those indictments we just saw for Comey and Tish James are the appetizer indictments. And the big one, the main course, is going to be the conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241. I've publicly called for this for the last 3+ years since the Mar-a-Lago raid. Remember this with the Russian collusion hoax. The Democrats made this up to help Hillary Clinton's campaign, to cover up her corruption, and to take out presidential candidate Donald Trump. They failed. President Trump went into office, and so they tried to destroy him while he was in office, and they tried to destroy him with the lawfare because he declassified Crossfire Hurricane before he left office the first time.
And you.
Okay, so there's first that statement right there. There's no privileged information in there. There's nothing other than speculation and something he's been talking about, as he said, for 3 years. So this isn't like some new disclosure that's being out there. There's only one sentence in this whole entire clip, by the way, that they could argue exposes the grand jury.
I believe that the Mar-a-Lago raid was also part of it. They were actually looking for the assessment of Russia's influence campaign targeting the 2016 presidential election. It was declassified. I have it right here. Do you believe that's what they were looking for?
1,000%. And those people who did this raid, like Jay Bratz and others, they did this to cover up their own corruption. This is the biggest scandal in American history. They politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement to take out their political enemy. This is third world stuff. And I would say to these lawfare Democrats, justice is definitely coming.
Matt, this is all pretty extraordinary.
It is, but I think
Okay, so that's Matt Taibbi. They come back from break, and we got one more clip from Davis.
Well, I think some of the releases that early James Clapper, some of these investigated for documents.
Where does this go?
I think it goes all the way up to the top, to President Obama, to Vice President Biden, to Hillary Clinton, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, so many players within the Obama and Biden administration. And I think it also includes the lawfare Democrats, these prosecutors who coordinated with the Biden White House to bring these indictments against President Trump.
And there's also a grand jury being prepared right now, right?
There is a new grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, and that would be a good place to do this grand jury investigation for what they did to President Trump.
Okay.
The Mar-a-Lago raid's the hook.
Gentlemen.
So that's the only thing that he says there at the end when Bartiromo asks him, there's a grand jury in Fort Pierce. Well, that's inaccurate. The grand jury is being assembled in Miami. That's over 2 hours away from Fort Pierce. Same judicial district, but different division. So that's not like insider information if he didn't even get the division right. But he doesn't disclose what the grand jury's about. He doesn't disclose who's a target of it, anything along those lines. The other thing is, and this is the kind of the weird thing, is Bartiromo holds up a report and says, I have the Crossfire report here. Remember, Trump declassified that on January 20th, 2021, right before he left office. January 19th, 2021, right before he left office, he declassified that. That report has not been made public to anybody. That report is still, MIA. So I don't know what Bartiromo was holding up there, but this is really interesting that you're having this reaction from Brennan's attorneys over this. And before I move on, if you want to comment, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Davis, Article 3 Project. I mean, he was almost a daily fixture on Steve Bannon's show throughout the entire Biden presidency. So I'm very familiar with his thinking, and he always joked. I mean, I don't think he was joking. He was like, make me attorney general for, I think he said like 1 week, maybe even he said like 3 days. So just give me 3 days. I will issue all the indictments I need to issue, and then somebody else can come in and prosecute. But just give me a couple of days, or I think he maybe said a couple of weeks. I'll just be like acting because they'll never confirm me. Yeah, they're grasping at straws, and they're grasping everywhere, by the way. It's just every single like facet of the info war. They are totally desperate and clawing, and it's pretty encouraging to watch.
Yeah, the next thing they announce here is also evident in the November 6th MS Now MSNBC article describing quote unquote source reporting that the Department of Justice is preparing to issue a series of grand jury subpoenas as part of a South Florida-based investigation into former CIA Director John Brennan and the probes by the CIA and FBI Russian interference. Again, first and foremost, you're not going to see too many Trump administration officials, at least if they're, legitimately serving in their positions, leaking to MSNBC. Okay, that's just like counterintuitive. So that sounds like either a disgruntled worker, another bullshit anonymous source. Maybe they heard rumblings, and so they tried to take a shot in the dark and see if they got something right. Again, this just reeks of desperation. They're preemptively trying to recuse Judge Eileen Cannon, who has not even been appointed yet. They're putting this information out there. Like, nobody knew officially that Brennan was the target of a grand jury probe until his attorney said it. Do you know how weird that is for attorneys to come out and acknowledge that their client is is a target of a grand jury probe? That's a strange thing to admit. You don't want that out there unless, of course, it's some sort of a dog whistle.
It's a dog whistle for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're calling, they're flipping the pigeons, man. Like, it's like in the ghetto when the cops roll in, they flip the pigeons, let everyone know that the cops are there. It's like they're letting them know that they're coming and to batten down the hatches. That's what's happening, right?
Yes, and and
of course you can trust me because I'm from the ghetto. You can trust me when I give you that anecdote.
And of course, this is something we've talked about. Me and Alpha have talked about on the show before. But when you start putting information like this out there, and you start getting people to flip the pigeons, like Gordon said, they get sloppy. And FISAs work both ways. Remember that. That's one thing that we always tend to think, like FISAs were weaponized against us. Well, they work both ways. And I think there's going to be some pretty big announcements coming down on this Florida thing here. And I don't think, after reading that letter, now I haven't read the whole letter. I only read about 3 pages of it where they kind of outline everything, their arguments. I don't think they have a leg to stand on in this. And, it is a George W. Bush appointee, though, that's going to ultimately decide over this. And, I hate to think of the judges as, weaponized and being weaponized. But if there ever was a judge to be favorable, it would be a Miami George W. Bush appointee.
Yeah. But what I find so encouraging right now, and there are plenty of things to be frustrated about. Don't get me wrong. But I think for a really long time, we always were kind of, we were always kind of searching for the signal with noise, and we were always kind of like looking for that one thing that was going to break, like the one thing that's going to happen that's just going to flip the switch, and suddenly everyone's going to be aware of what's happening, and all the momentum is going to shift to our side. what I'm seeing now is it's like a full court press. Like I'm seeing all the different facets of the information war are moving. Like all of the different units are advancing at the exact same time, like in unison. And so if one thing drops, like if one thing doesn't work out, it almost doesn't even matter because there's so much momentum coming from everything else that the panic across the board, and that's the only word you can use at this point, it's panic. They're like every facet is panicking now. And to the extent that it is totally insufferable to even like go on social media now, I think I'm noticing there are a lot of people who are saying, I'm taking the rest of the year off from social media because this place is so insufferable. And I agree. I think it is insufferable. But like I went to a Christmas party this past weekend and I spoke to some people who are total normies and were like, what's Turning Point USA? Like Trump voters who were like, what's Turning Point USA? Because that whole event was happening. And then I talked to other people who were like track this stuff and even like are aware of Badlands. And they were saying they're like, dude, this is just unbearable how insufferable this whole like civil war thing is. And that's just one facet. So, I think that it's good that people are dejected by the soap opera. The soap opera is a drug that people have become addicted to, and we need to defect from it because the soap opera is what controls our lives.
Yeah, the one thing, and we talked about this yesterday, the promising thing for me, at least in my algorithm right now, and I realize we all have different algorithms, is, I'm seeing, yes, the divide and the quote unquote civil war that's raging on inside of MAGA right now with, the Turning Point USA. You got the Ben Shapiro's of the world, the Mark Levins of the world, and the Steve Bannons and Megyn Kelly's and Tucker Carlson's, and I think Bannon's kind of in a category of his own as the populist right, and all the other ones are kind of more into their little establishment echo chambers. But the most promising thing for me, Gordon, is I'm seeing a massive shit ton of election news being allowed to make its way through the algorithm and start garnering those hundreds of thousands of views. And that to me is signal. And that's also very promising that all of the sudden now it's okay for this information to go viral, right? It's the chains have been lifted. And I think that's the important thing. And I think everything else around it is just noise to distract from actually what's being discovered in the election front. So I'm actually very up on social media right now.
That makes me happy to hear that. I mean, and honestly, it could just be my algorithm, and I have no one to blame but myself for that. Just given the stuff that I've been doing for the past few years, I think the algorithm has now just weaponized itself against me because every time I log in, it's just it's like everything's about Israel and Jews and going both ways, and it's just insufferable to wade through. So yeah, that is I'm obviously front and center in that, like in the worst possible way. So. But, there are also really encouraging signs with that. I mean, Mark Levin totally spun out, crashed out yesterday. Laura Loomer crashed out yesterday when Trump, like, ostensibly kind of like, he backed Tucker. And when people were when the media asked him about it. So, yeah, and it's I don't know, it's interesting. Somebody in the chat did ask this question. I just want to address this. They said, where is the steel for the ships coming from? And that's a really important point because we didn't address the first thing you said, which is the golden age is coming. It took like 18 to 20 months. Burning Bright and I have been talking about this, privately, and he's been posting about it. But it took about 18 to 24 months for the first Trump boom to come into effect, right? And this one is way more aggressive. He's done way more in the first 12 months than he did the first time. He didn't even really do that much. He did a lot of posturing, but he really only did like a handful of tariffs and really only against a small part of the Chinese economy. This is totally different. But you remember the Japanese steel deal that like the Japanese company had to reinvest to basically rebuild the entire U.S. steel industry. That is officially in writing on paper. And we now have like earnings reports from that Japanese steel company, major losses for them for the benefit of the U.S. steel company. The trade deals that we signed with a number of these countries, particularly Japan and South Korea, to build them a navy. $150 billion from South Korea just to build ships for them. I think it was $550 billion from Japan, and I don't know what the percentage of that is, but a large portion of that is to build the Japanese a navy because we've been their navy since World War II. Like they were not allowed to have a navy. and instead we were their security force. So now we're going to build them a Navy. All of that's happening, built in the USA by American steel. So we have now laid out the conditions to have the raw materials, steel, the orders, like the demand, and now we can meet the demand. I mean, everything is primed for an economic boom that is going to totally eclipse World War II and what we experienced in World War II.
I'm looking forward to it. You had mentioned, the infighting, the Mark Levins, the Shapiros, the Bannons, and everything else, and I thought this was a pretty relevant story to segue into. And I could probably hand the geopolitics over to you. We got to keep it. Can't go an hour and a half like we did last week. Let's start out with this story here from Truth Out. Israel has new $6 million plan to flood Gen Z platforms with pro-Israel content. It says the government of Israel's hired a new conservative-aligned firm, Clock Tower X LLC, to create media for Gen Z audience in a contract worth $6 million. At least 80% of content that Clock Tower produces will be, quote, tailored to Gen Z audiences across platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, and other relevant digital and broadcast outlets, and, quote, with a minimum of 50 million impressions per month. Clock Tower will even deploy, quote, this is the really concerning part. Clock Tower will even deploy, quote, websites and content to deliver GPT framing results on GPT conversations. In other words, Clock Tower will create new websites to influence how AI GPT models, such as ChatGPT, are trained on various amounts of data from every corner of the internet, frame topics, and respond to them, all on behalf of Israel. Clock Tower will integrate its pro-Israel messaging into Salem Media Network Properties, a conservative Christian media group that boasts a vast radio network and products and produces high-profile shows such as Hugh Hewitt Show, The Larry Elder Show, and The Right View with Laura Trump. Donald Trump Jr. and Laura Trump are significant stakeholders in the company. Former Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale, the advisor who hired micro-targeting firm Cambridge Analytica during the 2016 campaign, is the leader of Clock Tower currently.
Now, wait a minute. So can you explain the relationship between Clock Tower and what? Is it Clock Tower in Microsoft? Is it Clock Tower in the State Department? What is it?
No, so the way that this sounds, the way this is being reported is Clock Tower has contracted with the Israeli government to influence social media here. And Brad Parscale, who runs Clock Tower, is also involved in Salem Media Network. And it seems like Salem Media Network is going to become the new voice of Israel in the United States. And it's a Christian-based conservative network. And again, it's got guys like Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, and Laura Trump. The former two, for sure, are the pro-Israel. I don't want to go as far as Israel first, but hugely pro-Israel.
Hugh Hewitt's pretty pro-Israel, yeah.
Hugh Hewitt is, but Hugh Hewitt has also had some really interesting conversations with President Trump regarding Israel. Isn't he the one that?
He's the one that Trump goes on has gone on the show a few times and dropped a few bombs. It's like Trump is speaking, I think, like to the Jewish community directly when he goes on Hugh Hewitt's show. In my opinion, the American Jewish community. The reason I asked is just Brad Parscale, I think, it was revealed he had like a $6 million or $7 million contract, Hasbara contract with the Israeli government. Hasbara, by the way, I believe it's like Tell the Truth or something like that in Hebrew, but it's their official propaganda budget, and they've upped it to $750 million this year. And they view it as, it's national security for them because it's educating the world on the Jewish perspective. That's the way that they pitch it. Now, if you would share my screen, it's important that we need to be like very aware of what is happening under the Trump administration, because while there's a lot of things to be excited about, there's also things that are like replays of things that happened during the Biden administration. This is one of them. There's also one that has nothing to do with Israel that I want to share later. This is Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan, who I believe, as I understand it, was born in Israel. He is Trump's U.S. anti-Semitism czar. Listen to what he said last week.
The president is sending a very strong message. Think about it. ironically, I get off a plane. I am the president's representative, and I am walking off with a yarmulke, and I have kosher food, and embassies will have kosher food. It is a game changer. The appointment is a game changer. And it's not about history. It's about education. And how do we educate? Indonesia has 350 million Muslims living in the country. How do we change their textbooks? How do we hold the people in Gaza accountable that if America is paying for UN textbooks and supposedly the changes are made, why are those textbooks not being used, and why are they using their old textbooks? We have to teach people it's not okay to educate your kids to be a martyr. Okay? And we have to hold those countries accountable. How do we battle anti-Semitism on the internet? How are we doing better on algorithms? What companies can we work with? We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology and working with the greatest leaders in technology, many of whom are Jewish and have offered their assistance. The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department, because that's what the secretary wants and that's what the president wants. So we are going to have a very, very strong mandate on education, on protecting people, and how are we able to make a huge difference in combating what goes on.
What goes on the internet. And let me finish that line for him. So again, this guy's from Israel. So he's not, I mean, he sounds American, and maybe he spent time in America growing up. It certainly sounds like he did from his accent. But these are not American values that he's espouting. When he talks about, the one thing I can extract from what he's saying is we need to stop allowing the CIA and the State Department to go around and radicalize the world, which is what they do. That's how they justify their existence. Why are we paying for textbooks in Indonesia? Why are we paying for textbooks in Gaza? Why are we paying for any of that stuff? Why are we forcing views on anybody? I think the more that you do, that's called tyranny, by the way, like forcing things on people when they don't want them is called tyranny. And typically when you force tyranny on people, that's when they respond negatively and they basically adopt the opposite of whatever opinion you're trying to force on them. So if you're trying to fix anti-Semitism by forcing people to love Jews, that's typically what's going to force people to do the opposite. And that's kind of what we're seeing unfold on social media right now. This is what the Biden administration was doing. Like he's talking about fixing algorithms, working with technologists and Silicon Valley and technocrats to rig the internet so that certain voices aren't heard. It was evil under Biden. It's evil under Trump. Doesn't matter who the president is. And the problem is that I have this guy is that he is bragging about all of this. Like at least the Biden administration had the frame of mind to not come out and brag about that they were doing this. This guy's out here saying he's a hero because he's building a robust office in the State Department to control online conversations. What are we talking about here? This is really scary stuff.
Yeah, just real quick in the chat, and I'm not going to dox him, but somebody asked, when do we have the conversation about the difference between Zionists versus actually Jewish people? We talk about this all the time. First and foremost, that when we're disparaging the attempts by Israel, it's not the people of Israel, it's the government. But at the same time, I'm getting sick and tired of having to do that. This is when somebody calls you racist and you're like, I have black friends. That's the same equivalence right there. When Jewish people start coming out in mass and calling out Zionism and calling out the indoctrination of the influence that the Israeli lobby has on America and influencing us, to make decisions that affect 15 to 16 million people in the world, in a world of, whatever it is, 8 billion people. And we're beholden to 15 or 16 million people in this country because everything we do has to somehow benefit Israel. And they're spending $6 million to propagandize American citizens. I'm sorry, I don't buy into that. I have no problem with Jewish people ever. I've never had a problem with Jewish people. But when this is going on, and now it's like the anti-Semitism is the right's racist, right? It's the same exact thing. And I think, believe it or not, Gordon, I think Tucker interviewed Matt Gaetz yesterday or a couple days ago.
I saw that he did that, but I've only seen clips of it. I haven't listened to it.
And he played that clip. And one of the things he said is that, you know, and this is kind of in line with Tom McDonald when he said, hate speech is not speech that you hate. It's along the same lines of where anti-Semitism used to be that you hate Jewish people. And now anti-Semitism is just Jewish people hate you. And that's, I thought that was an extremely profound statement that he made, because now it's at the point where if the Zionists, you know, these people, if they don't like what you represent, if they don't like the fact that you're America first, no matter what, and you don't think we should have dual citizenship in our Congress, regardless of what country it is, they automatically label you an anti-Semite. And I couldn't give a shit if you call me an anti-Semite or not. My grandfather was a Polish Air Force captain that survived the concentration camps. I could care less what you have to say about calling me an anti-Semite or whatever the case might be. So
yeah, and that's like the new racism. It's like the new racism thing.
Yeah.
But my real, like Eric Rice pointed this out, you know, they're whatever, like you said, like 16 million Jews worldwide. That's old, the young, babies, everyone. There's 45 million Christian Zionists. So there's like 3 times as many Christian Zionists. And really, they're the ones that are pushing this even more. Like, I actually consider them the more hostile force. I think Israel is acting in its own best interest from its perspective. And we can debate what we know, whether those interests align with America's interest. I certainly don't think they do. But it's the collaboration between Christian Zionists in America the Christian Zionists are the ones welcoming this in and saying, yes, let's usher in the tyranny. Let's usher in, because, you know, they have their own agenda and their own motives. But we have to be very quick to point that out too. It's the Christian Zionists that I think make all this possible as well. So, you know, that's the other part of this. And you're right. It's like the identity politics just needs to stop. And unfortunately, that's at the very center of that issue, is identity politics.
Yeah. And just to be clear real quick, my grandfather I was talking about earlier is a marital grandfather. My mom's dad died when she was 6 months old. My grandma remarried him long before I was born. And he's the only grandfather I know. I'm not actually Jewish in any way, shape, or form. I'm pretty much all Italian and a little itty bitty Norwegian, little bit of Norwegian. All right. So do you have more on the Israel topic, or because I have a segue into other geopolitics?
I do actually. I have I've got a pretty important notable story here, which was very predictable. I actually predicted this a few times, that Netanyahu to present, this is from the Times of Israel, Netanyahu to present Trump with new Iran attack plans during U.S. visit. Report, you've probably seen this being seeded in the zeitgeist. Jerusalem concerned Tehran could rebuild a nuclear program, but primarily worried about potential surge in ballistic missile production some 3,000 years ago, according to NBC. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will present plans for a possible fresh attack on Iran to U.S. President Donald Trump during his upcoming visit to Washington. NBC News reported Saturday, citing several unnamed sources. According to the report, Israel is growing increasingly concerned that Iran is rebuilding and even expanding its ballistic missile production for the wake of the nation's 12-day war in June. Israel is also worried that Iran is rebuilding its nuclear enrichment program, which was heavily damaged by Israeli and American strikes. The report added, Netanyahu and Trump are expected to meet at the president's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida at the end of the month. While Israel has publicly called Iran's nuclear program an existential threat, officials quoted in the report said the ballistic missiles were seen by Jerusalem as a more pressing concern. Quote, the nuclear weapons program is very concerning. There's an attempt to reconstitute, but it's not that immediate. A source with knowledge of Israel's plans told NBC, quote, the threat of the missile is very real, and we weren't able to prevent them all last time, another source said. So the first time I ever appeared on Badlands on screen, like 2 years ago, I said that, you know, I think what's probably going to happen is June of 23, that we're probably going to see like a conflict between Iran and Israel seated, and the presentation will be that Israel would need to preemptively attack Iran in order to prevent a nuclear attack. But the other thing I said during that conversation that was on Devolution Power Hour was that the nuclear threat aspect of that is a red herring, because they don't need nuclear weapons to destroy Israel. If they wanted to destroy Israel, they already have the technology to do that. They just need to penetrate the Iron Dome with their hypersonic missiles, take out some key strategic locations such as electricity generation plants, water desalination, water purification plants that would make Israel immediately uninhabitable. You wouldn't even need to really kill anybody. People would be forced to leave Israel because of that. You wouldn't be able to stay there. Not in the numbers, 9 million people or whatever living there. So the fact that hasn't happened, and they've had the technology to do that for years, they could have done it last year when they had their little kerfuffle, is a sign that Iran is not actually interested in the outcome that we've been told for so many years that it is. And now you're getting that from the Israeli government, that it's not actually the nuclear program they're worried about, it's the ballistic missile program. And so they're seeding that now, that we actually need to take out their ballistic missile capabilities.
God.
Yeah. And so we're, and again, this was all very predictable. Like, this was,
They just keep moving the freaking goalposts, man. And
it's not going to stop. I mean, this is
next they'll be worried about M4s that or the Tavarov rifles that they have.
Yeah. And and you see what's his name? Pompeo. Pompeo was out there. Here, I got a clip from Pompeo. He's out there carrying water about this right here.
Theocrats in Tehran. None of us should be surprised that Islamist theocrats in Tehran haven't changed their stripes. This is who they are. It's embedded in their DNA. In the same way Hamas is not going to go peacefully give up its weapons, the regime in Iran isn't going to give up its desire to build out a nuclear weapons program. Yeah, if they're rebuilding, we should do the necessary, go take it out. We're capable of doing that. We can't let them rebuild their air defenses. That would make it more difficult to achieve that mission. So time will be critical in making sure the air defense systems in Iran aren't capable of taking down Western aircraft. If we do that, we should continue to go after their program every time they try to rebuild it.
God, I like Pompeo so much better.
Yeah, and Fat Pompeo, it just crushes Skinny Pompeo. Skinny Pompeo is the worst, and Fat Pompeo. I found Fat Pompeo actually to be like endearing. Like, he was like he was like,
he has to be. He has to have charisma. Now that he's lost weight, he's an icon, man.
Dude, it's like Fat Pompeo was always smiling. He was very jovial. He's like a fun uncle, and Skinny Pompeo just creeps me out. But here is 2 clips from Lindsey Graham, and oddly enough, Lindsey Graham is spending Christmas in Tel Aviv, I guess. But
of course he is.
This feels like all this feels like a humiliation ritual. I don't know if the humiliation ritual was Lindsey Graham having to do this, or if it's us having to endure it. But let's listen to Lindsey Graham speak to us from Tel Aviv.
Let me ask you about another big conflict, Venezuela. This week, in a call with me, President Trump didn't rule out the possibility of a war with Venezuela. Overnight, we saw the United States intercept another oil tanker. President Trump promised to get America, as you know, out of foreign wars, not start new ones. Would he be going against that promise if he did, in fact, go to war with Venezuela?
Absolutely not. If you're an American and you want Maduro to stay in power, man, have you lost your way?
Yeah, and that's actually not the correct clip I meant to play. This is the one I meant to play. This is, again, from Tel Aviv. He's in Tel Aviv here. And here he is talking about bombing not only Iran, but also Lebanon as well.
They're up to no good. We obliterated the Iranian nuclear facilities. We did not obliterate Iran's desire to have a nuclear weapon. The regime hadn't changed at all. They still want to kill all the Jews, consider America the great Satan, and purify Islam. Are they regenerating their nuclear capability? Are they building more ballistic missiles that could hurt Europe and Israel? I don't know, but there's evidence to suggest they are. I would recommend, if there's credible evidence that Iran is going back into the enrichment business at other sites, that they're trying to build more ballistic missiles to terrorize Israel and maybe Europe, that we hit them before they can do that.
Wow.
One thing I've learned about radical Islam, the only language it understands is force. So I am hopeful we can put Hamas on a time clock. The trend lines in Lebanon are, quite frankly, optimistic. The Lebanese government has decided to call for Hezbollah to disarm. If Hezbollah gave up their heavy weapons, that would be a godsend for Lebanon and the region. If Hezbollah refuses to give up their heavy weapons, down the road, we should engage in military operations working with Lebanon, Israel, and the United States, where we fly with Israel like we did with Iran to take Hezbollah out. Once you take Hamas and Hezbollah off the table, two proxies of Iran, the likelihood of a Saudi-Israel deal goes up dramatically. I think Lebanon would be a good candidate to expand the Abraham Accords once Hezbollah is dealt with. So Hezbollah either voluntarily gives up their heavy weapons, or we have to come up with a military campaign to achieve that goal.
A military campaign too. So we're going to invade Lebanon. We also would need to invade Syria because Hezbollah is in Syria too. We also would need to attack Iran. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Like literally no. It's amazing that he's like, isn't he on the Senate Intelligence Committee? Saudi Arabia, which has had a historic rift with Hezbollah, has very recently made amends with Hezbollah, and MBS has actually been speaking with them directly. Tom Barrack, who's Donald Trump's best friend, happens to also be the special envoy to Syria, the ambassador to Turkey, and has also been an envoy to Lebanon as well. I mean, he's Lebanese Christian. He has come out and said, we're not disarming Hezbollah because it's not physically possible. He says the way that we have AR-15s in America, they have 50 caliber rifles. That's what he said. So he said, you're not disarming a population that's that heavily armed. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to give up their weapons, nor should they. Any smart, wise population wouldn't willingly give up their ability to defend themselves. The best thing to do is to make peace with them, to find common ground and engage in diplomacy, not engage in a military campaign. And attacking them and causing more disruption in the Middle East and more conflict in the Middle East is certainly not a way to get the Saudis to come to the table and become, friends officially with Israel. This guy literally has no idea what he's talking about, and it's embarrassing that he's out there speaking on our behalf.
I really, really hope he gets well, I know he's getting primaried. I really hope he loses his primary in South Carolina, because I cannot stand if there was one person in all of Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, that in the Senate that I could get rid of, it would probably be Lindsey Graham.
But man, does he make a strong case for like how corrupt our government is? It's like having him out there is so useful, because it's like, man, look how corrupt our government is.
Look how warmongering this government is. President Trump is out here rugging you guys on this war with Venezuela every single day, for the last 5 days. And Lindsey Graham is out there just crying for us to, well, now they have ballistic missiles. Get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. Get out of here. You go from nukes to ballistic missiles. Soon, like I said earlier, soon it's going to be that they have aircraft. They have airplanes that can reach Israel. And we got to take out Iran, bomb Iran. Fuck that, man.
Well, and the other clip I had that I'm not going to play, I'll spare you the time. He calls for officially designating Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, which would basically put them on par with Hamas and all these other terrorist organizations. Iran, like the Iranian regime, North Korea, all that. And then we should start seizing every Russian oil tanker in the Caribbean. We should just start seizing all their oil tankers. And that would be like a great path forward. I mean, it is scary that people like that are in our government and that they are speaking publicly. It's a testament to the patience and the wisdom of people like Sergei Lavrov, Vladimir Putin, Kirill Dmitriev, that they have the strength to sit there and listen to this and not pull the trigger. Because when you listen to Lindsey Graham, you're like, well, these people are about to attack us any day now. We should probably move first. But again, I don't think
President Trump.
Exactly. Obviously the Sovereign Alliance is very real, and we even have the Guardian.
It's
now.
not the Sovereign Alliance. It's the Alliance of Sovereign Nations.
Can you believe she did that? I cannot believe.
Pull that tweet up. I think that's definitely worth pulling up. While you're pulling that up, let me talk about a sponsor real quick, guys. Hey guys, have you tried 1775 coffee yet? Now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped with only 1,000 units available. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom can't be scooped with a plastic scoop. and a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your father-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. All right. Did you find it?
Yeah, I have it right here. So I didn't listen to her speech at Turning Point. She may have talked about this on stage. She presents it as if she did. But the post is Alliance of Sovereign Nations coming to Washington, D.C., March 2026. Time to tell the WEF they can keep their crazy bug-eating dystopian BS to themselves. Looking forward to hosting based-only members from allied nations. More to come. Thank you, Turning Point USA, for having me. So, yeah, I mean, is it nice that
Alliance of Sovereign Nations.
It's nice to see like people of her stature talking about it in this way now. But I mean, the fact that it's Panuna doing it is, and it's not just that, it's her language here. I mean, she's basically taking Burning Bright's writing and like flipping a few words around. Alliance of Sovereign Nations. She explicitly talks about time to tell the World Economic Forum, meaning the Great Reset, to pound sand. Because we talked about the Great Reset, the Good Reset. I mean, we were talking about that 2022, 2023. Yeah, I mean, Panuna, if you want to come hang out, you can come hang out. We can be friends. Like, we like to rag on you, but it's only because you do stuff like this. But we appreciate you putting out the signal. So Panuna, it's all good.
Again, I've been doing this a lot lately because so much of what we've been saying on Badlands for the last 3 years is becoming mainstream now. The Alliance of Sovereign Nations, for one. You were out in front of the October 7th attacks. You called that before that happened. You've been out in front of so many things with the Israel-Iran conflict, and in general, done more research into the underlying issues in Venezuela in regards to Burning Bright. Maduro, I don't even know where Burning Bright was coming into my head there, but the big election story that just came out that's blowing up the algorithm on X. I broke that story 3 years ago, and it's like now seeing all of this come to fruition. I love it, man. I love it because it's we've got 3,500 people watching. We should have 35,000 because the thought leaders here at Badlands have been just phenomenal people, and we have a phenomenal audience too, by the way. Like, you guys are freaking rock stars. We get a lot of stuff from you guys, conversations we have at Gart's, in the chats and everything else. So
and to be clear, I don't get upset when like this kind of stuff happens, like, because the goal of Badlands, the reason we do this is to move the collective mind, move the Overton window to this point where we're having these conversations openly, and we're not talking about Vladimir Putin in the context of him being a villain. So this was always supposed to happen. Being right, by the way, is like one of the most overrated things ever. I mean, it's just not, it's not that great. And the people who were wrong, who were like castigating you for having your opinion, never come back and like have humility about it. So it's just, being right is just incredibly overrated. I don't really care about being right, but it is nice that the things that we thought were going to happen, the vision that we were seeing, is coming to fruition, because that means that we are entering a golden age and we're not going down the Great Reset. So I hope to see more people adopting this mindset where it's like, we don't need to like go kill everything that moves in certain parts of the world. And on that note, the last thing that maybe I'll show that I just saw that I didn't even know about this was Trump talking about Gustavo Petro. He's talking more about Gustavo Petro now, more and more and more. And this sounds like this is a funny clip. The quote from Insider Paper is he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine. So I haven't even watched this yet. I say we watch this.
Go full screen.
So in response to the United States taking sanctioned oil from Venezuela, Colombian President Gustavo Petro criticized the United States by saying, well, the Southwest is stolen land and that it should be returned to Latin America. I just wanted to know what your response to that is.
Well, he has to watch because, he's got drug factories. They make cocaine in Colombia. And he's no friend of the United States. He's very bad guy. And he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and they send it into the United States of America from Colombia. We love the Colombian people. I love the Colombian people. They're great people, energetic, smart, great. But their new leader is a troublemaker, and you better watch it. You better close up those cocaine factories. They have at least 3 major cocaine factories. We know where they are. He better close them up fast. Yeah.
So in response
Okay,
to the United
so,
States,
like everyone listening, I just want you to understand something. That's a rug. He just laid a rug out because Gustavo Petro's already done that. He's already rounded up the people. He's already arrested them. He's already sent them to the United States to be arrested, extradited. He's already gone to Qatar and negotiated the surrender of the largest cocaine cartel, the Gulf Clan in Colombia, that happened back in September. So he's already done all this stuff. Trump knows that. I think he's been working with Trump the whole time, in my opinion. This is literally soap opera. Pay attention to the quote unquote influencers who run with this, the way Trump is positing it, because they're the ones that you can't trust moving forward. They're the ones that are just going to follow the shiny object, chase the truck down the road until they get hit by a car. They're leading you down the road to damnation. Like, defect from the soap opera and just think for yourself and look into this stuff. Don't even take my word for it. Like, look into the stuff that I'm claiming. You'll find that it's the opposite of what Trump's presenting. He's not lying to you, though. I think he's baiting these people into basically exposing the fact that they're just liars. And that would be not only the influencers, but the media, the politicians, all of them.
Did you see Marco Rubio's speech the day that Trump did the most favored nation speech, where he said that we're now going to start when we send money to other nations, for support, whatever the case might be, we're going to send it directly to the government rather than using NGOs like USAID as like offshoots, like go-betweens to get that money in. You didn't see that speech?
No, I didn't see him say that.
Let me see if I can find this real quick, because I thought this was very significant. And I kind of questioned whether here it is. I had kind of questioned whether putting USAID under the State Department was going to be something beneficial or not. So here's the clip from last week.
Do you stand by your statement earlier this year that nobody has died from USAID cuts?
On your first point, I think it's not just the policy of this administration. I think every administration would love to see a different type of situation in Cuba. Cuba's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's not just because they're Marxists and because they're terrorists. They're incompetent. These are incompetent people, and they've destroyed that country. On the second point, I'm very proud of the changes we've made in foreign aid. Just yesterday, the day before, I think before the end of this year, going to enter into over 50 compacts, health compacts with different countries around the world. Understand the way this used to work. We used to go to a country and say, we're going to give you a bunch of money for your healthcare programs. And then we would go out and hire some NGO in Northern Virginia or whatever. They would take their 60% cut off the top for administrative aid. They would take another 20%. Before you knew it, just a portion of that money was even reaching these countries. In many cases, many of those countries, it is true. I heard somebody whisper that's not true. It is true. In many of these countries, the governments didn't even know how much money was being spent. We are now entering into government-to-government compacts with these governments. And the compacts are the following. Not only are they provided assistance, but they are being provided a plan to build up their own self-sustainment and their own abilities internally.
Isn't that huge?
Whoa. Okay.
It's so big right there, man. Like, that is why you're seeing a lot of these, people outing themselves as CIA and trying to run that interference and turn all eyes on Venezuela and away from the globalists. As Colonel Towner calls the globalists, she calls the intelligence community the Praetorian Guard of the globalists. And Rubio is literally cutting them off right here completely by saying, we're going to go directly to the government. No more NGO involvement, no more middlemen, no more, taking 60% off the top, right? We send 300. Now, granted, I would like to see us not sending money to other countries. Okay.
Well, yeah, we should, I mean, it should be zero, but just listening to the way that Rubio laid that out, like, the purpose of that deployment was not to say we're going to keep sending money to these governments. He was laying out the fact that we're laundering money through nonprofits. Like, that's what he just said. And look, I mean, there are a lot of people in the Trump administration who I just don't trust, and I probably never will. And Rubio was probably one of the people who I was the most skeptical of because of his background and his like neocon credentials. And I still don't fully trust him, honestly, but I am willing to be open-minded that there are paths of redemption for everybody, and maybe he's redeeming himself. I do have a clip from that same press conference. I haven't been able to even listen to these full press conferences. Months ago, I would have sat and listened to every single full press conference, but it's that time of year.
Just one more thing real quick on what Rubio's saying right there with the defunding of a lot of these NGO networks and everything, which all of them, excuse me, not all of them, a chunk of them obviously have either direct intelligence involvement or intrusion of intelligence, right? They've been subverted and whatnot. And I think that's one of the reasons why President Trump is focusing so much right now on Venezuela and now kind of shifting over to Colombia, because the narco trafficking through especially Colombia, not as much Venezuela, that's kind of the highlight. Like Venezuela was like the soft disclosure into what's going on, the boats being blown up and all that stuff. The real, meat and potatoes of drug narco trafficking comes through Colombia. And I think what President Trump is doing right now is he's exposing all of that. He said the CIA is going to be operating in Venezuela publicly. He said this, and he's got them on their heels right now, because if Gustavo Petro does, in fact, as you said, he has, I didn't know that, but if he shut down these cocaine factories and he shut this all down, these are hundreds of millions of dollars that are being taken off the black books for a lot of these intelligence communities, and the war that he's waging. It's not an overt war right in our face, but if you can look below the layers, you can see that President Trump is at war right now with the intelligence community.
Yeah, and what turned me on to all this, by the way, guys, was I happened to listen to Gustavo Petro's speech at the UN, like back in September, late September, and he came out and said, "Oh, so you're going to war with the cartels? Well, does that mean you're going to war with DC? Because most of the people there are on the cartel." And I was like, "Holy shit!" And then I went and started digging in on him, and that's when I discovered he's actually been arresting these people this whole time. And it's amazing that it isn't being more widely reported. The whole like, Venezuela has to give their oil back. That's just more of the soap opera. They have to give the land back. There's something going on with Citgo and Hess and Exxon, and it has to do with, there's legal battles that happened where Exxon basically got their license taken away. They went to Guyana. Their license actually is through Guyana. It's not even through Venezuela. They're trying to take over the Venezuelan oil belt through the Guyanese government. And then when Hess went up for sale, they sold to Citgo, which has a license, which is, I didn't even know this till I looked into this. Citgo is owned by Venezuela. I don't know if you know that, but
yes.
Citgo is owned by PDVSA. PDVSA is the entity that filed all those lawsuits in 2017 or 2018 against those executives. Like, they're the ones who started the whole war against the globalist executives, like the commodity trading Glencore people. I didn't realize that they own Citgo. Trump, as soon as the courts in July finalized all that and said, yeah, Hess, because Exxon tried to sue and say we have first right of refusal, the court shut down Exxon. I think what the British were trying to do is they were trying to use Exxon to get the oil from Venezuela through Guyana. And as soon as it was awarded to Citgo, Trump gave them a special exemption, which lets them bring oil back to Texas. And instead of giving cash, which wouldn't have looked good to the establishment, they're allowed to give crude. They're giving crude oil to the PDVSA, and PDVSA turns around and sells it. It's the same thing. But what's amazing about, so there's something going on there with, like, it has to do with the British Commonwealth. It has to do with the Glencore people, all of that. And Guyana is a big part of it. But I wanted to show you this. Like, here is Trump doing the exact same thing he was doing to Gustavo Petro. Now, again, doing it to Maduro, saying Maduro would be smart to get out. And the quote is, he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last thing he ever plays tough. It would be the last time he ever plays tough. It would be smart for him to step down. So there's that. Then you have Sergei Lavrov, who is, people need to understand, the most respected diplomat in the world is this guy right here. He's been the Russian foreign minister since, I believe, since before Putin became president in the year 2000. This guy has been their foreign minister. He's the most respected diplomat in the world. He has incredible calm and is very, very chill. Like, he does not get worked up over stuff. And so he comes out and says that they're backing Venezuela. He's serious concern over Washington's increasingly escalatory actions in the Caribbean Sea. He goes on to call like the seizing the oil tankers pirate acts of piracy. And he says that and then Putin also expressed solidarity with the people of Venezuela and reaffirmed his support for Maduro's government and their resolve to defend national interest and sovereignty against foreign pressure. And that cues up this clip that I had from Rubio, obviously from the same briefing. And I looked at this both ways. I was like, this could be him being a smartass. This could be him being signal. But listen to this.
Concerned about an escalation with Russia with regards to Venezuela. We've always expected them to provide rhetorical support for the Maduro regime. I think they have their hands full in Ukraine. And if he's watching, Sergey, Merry Christmas. But at the end of the day, I expected them to say what they were going to say. The rhetorical support, we understand what that's at. It's not a factor in how we consider this whole thing. We're not concerned about an escalation.
Yeah. So the only thing that gave me pause there is that they killed a Russian general yesterday. Not just any Russian general, but a guy who seems pretty important. Served in the Ossetia Ingush War in the 1990s, early 1990s. Served in the Second Chechen War. Served in Syria, led all Russian forces in Syria in 2015. Basically saved Assad, which means he was working with the Kadyrovsky, which is the Chechen Dagestani people that Burning Bright always talks about. Now the Russian special forces, they've become the Russian special forces in the past 10 years. And they killed him with a car bomb yesterday in Moscow. And so I didn't know if Rubio, when he says when I first saw that and he says Merry Christmas, Sergey, is he referring to the guy being killed, or is he referring to what you and I think that and I'm leaning more towards the latter. Because there's no way the CIA and the State Department wasn't involved in, I think, the killing of that general. And I think that stuff like that, the fact that Putin and Lavrov can sit there and be so calm when their generals are being assassinated at their houses by Ukrainian intelligence and the CIA is biblical patience. I mean, that is like divine patience to be able to sit there and put up with that. So anyway.
Well, let's use this to segue into this story here from the Reuters. EU leaders will loan 90 billion euros to Ukraine, but fail to agree to use frozen Russian assets. So the frozen Russian assets, this has been a story that's been kind of lingering for like almost 2 years now. We're going to use these 210 billion euros worth of Russian frozen assets to fund the war, and yet they've never been able to do it. It's almost like they can't, and they know they can't. But European Union leaders decided on Friday to borrow cash to loan 90 billion euros to Ukraine to fund its defense against Russia for the next 2 years rather than use the frozen Russian assets. The leaders also gave the European Commission a mandate to keep working on a so-called reparations loan based on Russian immobilized assets. But that option proved unworkable for now, above all due to resistance from Belgium, where the bulk of the assets is held. The idea of EU borrowing initially seemed unworkable as it required unanimity, and Hungary's Russia-friendly Prime Minister Viktor Orban had opposed it. But Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic agreed to let the scheme go ahead as long as it didn't impact them financially. Quote, "This is good news for Ukraine and bad news for Russia, and this was our intention," says German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. So, again, I think this is really fascinating that you're seeing Orban kind of capitulate to the EU on this funding, but also the EU saying, we're just going to extract it from the other nations. We won't take it from the Hungarians, the Slovakians, or the Czech. And again, if you're in the European Union right now and you see the way that your leadership is basically going full Lindsey Graham here on this to allude to an earlier segment, and continuing this war while Donald Trump is out there trying to negotiate this war and put an end to it. Your leaders are the ones that are emboldening Zelensky to continue on with this fight. We talked yesterday about the sanctioned shadow fleet that Zelensky allegedly struck. I don't even know if he actually struck it. It's a joke of a video that they posted. But again, this wasn't something that was like Putin was like concealing. In his statement, he said, yeah, they were our ships. This isn't a shadow fleet. I don't know. This whole thing, it seems like there's a more of a war going on right now between the United States and the EU, with Russia kind of floating along and going through the process. I wanted to get your take.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Burning Bright actually wrote about this the other day. Even The Guardian is saying that now. The Guardian is now talking about Trump and Putin doing a pincer move against Europe, which is exactly what Burning Bright's been writing about for years.
Yeah, check out this clip of Tulsi Gabbard at the Turning Point event last week.
But what I've seen over these months is that every time they make progress and they move closer and closer to that hope for peace, the warmongers in the deep state step up and try to do everything they can to stop them. Predictably, they use the same old tactics that they've always used. The deep state within the intelligence community weaponizes intelligence to try to undermine progress. They leak it to their friends in the mainstream propaganda media to try to spread this and push a false narrative. They foment fear and hysteria as a way to justify the continuing of the war and their efforts to undermine President Trump's efforts towards peace. And do so specifically in this case in order to try to pull the US military into a direct conflict with Russia, which is ultimately what the EU and NATO want.
Yep.
We cannot allow this to happen. We have to see clearly what's happening before our very eyes and stand united in this cause of peace.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
All right.
Love Tulsi, by the way. I mean, like she like I actually put her, I think, at the very top of the list of people that I trust in the Trump administration. I probably would even put her above Cash. Her and Cash are probably the two that I feel the strongest about in terms of like they're there for the right reasons, that are going to do the right thing. But yeah, what she says right there, I mean, she is saying, she's just laying it out there, and it's you got to imagine she's probably taking a lot of flack behind the scenes over it. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for the geopolitical segment. Real quick, there's just a quick update on Honduras, because there was an election last month, at the end of last month in Honduras. I had mentioned, that Rick Crawford and several other House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence members had gone to monitor the election in Honduras. President Trump endorsed, what's his name? Tito Asfuria, and he ended up ultimately winning, but they've not yet certified the election. It's been almost a month, right? We're coming up on the 30th of December. It's been 3 weeks since the election. They've not yet certified it. And the Trump administration just revoked 2 visas from the Libre Party, which is the ruling party in Honduras. And the 2 members that whose visas he revoked, one is a magistrate judge on the Honduras Electoral Council, like judicial council, and a tribunal, so dealing with election law. And the other one is a member of the National Council for Elections in Honduras. So I don't know what this means. I thought it was interesting right away, and it piqued my interest that the HPSCI is going over there. The other 3 countries that Rick Crawford has gone to this year thus far since April is Guyana, Suriname, and Barbados, all 3 of which are trafficking hubs. They're docking points essentially for trafficking. And, I'm sure there's some relationship there. I don't know whether it's, good or a bad thing that we're sending intelligence representatives to, representatives on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence to these countries, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Do you know what the relationship is? All 3 of those countries are part of the British Commonwealth, which means they're all part of the British Empire.
Very interesting.
Yep. Guyana, Barbados. I just checked. I wasn't sure about Barbados, but Barbados, Suriname, and Guyana. And I think I think Honduras might actually be it too. Let me check. But yeah, there's not very many countries in Central and South America that are part of it. I think the only country in South America that's part of it is Guyana. Honduras is not, but I think Belize might be. Yes, Belize is. So Belize is part of it, which used to be called British Honduras, but Honduras is not. So
Interesting. Well, Honduras, I think it comes because of the Juan Orlando Hernandez pardon.
I know, which is like great signal there. I mean, that's a template.
Huge. That was massive signal because like we've said on this show, we did some more research. Josh Reed pushed me in this direction to dig into that further, and Juan Orlando Hernandez was convicted with zero evidence against him. Zero.
That's
zero.
Insane. Who's the Banana Republic? Like we're the Banana Republic, right? I mean, it's so funny. Yeah. And then you have Malay down there openly calling for the U.S. military like intervention in South America. And then Lula, who's supposed to be the crazy communist, he's the one being the voice of reason. He's the one being like, if you do this, it's going to be a major catastrophe. This is going to be a terrible idea. Like so many Americans are going to die. So many South Americans are going to die. Do not do this. And it's like, I mean, Lula, I think, is our boy. I think he's like the Joe Biden of Brazil. He's definitely like a retarded communist, but he's our retarded communist. Yeah, it's really interesting. So
yeah, and they're laying the foundation right now to do the same thing to Maduro. You're seeing all these, people, whistleblowers coming out that are Venezuelans in American prisons, right? Carvajal, Hugo Carvajal Barrios is one of them. These are people that are, coming out and saying, we'll blow the whistle on Maduro. And so if somehow they ever do get their hands on Maduro, you'll see a prosecution of Maduro based on testimony of people that are in prison. And in the Juan Orlando Hernandez, one of those people was sentenced to life in prison. And after testifying for Hernandez, he was let go, time served. You don't go from life to time served and let go.
Which is why I don't want to see Maduro like surrender, because I don't want to see him because that'll definitely happen. It'll be like Saddam Hussein. So
all right, if you guys needed to see any more proof, or at least not proof is definitive evidence of Hunter Biden being our boy. Remember a couple weeks ago when President Trump was talking about the pardons, and he said all of the preemptive pardons are null and void except Hunter's. Hunter's was legit. Remember when he said that last week, Gordon?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Check this clip out. Hunter Biden did a 5.5 hour interview with Sean Ryan. 5.5 hours. I got to watch it. I have to watch it. Every second of it, I have to watch it. But check out this clip.
Vibrant immigration. But we don't want immigrants that are coming here illegally, draining us of resources, and also and being prioritized above people that are actual literal heroes that are coming home, or that are still recovering from 20 years of endless war, or anybody else in our society, right? But everybody's talking about.
I did not have Hunter Biden coming out and saying, we don't want illegals here that are draining our resources from American citizens, and we need to get rid of them. I did not have that on my bingo card.
It's funny, man, because back when like the Q research boards were still a thing, like 2020, I'm sure they're still around, but I don't frequent them. That's what people were speculating, was that Hunter was the mole.
Yeah.
And that was even before the Hunter Biden laptop thing became like the Hunter Biden laptop thing happened at the end of 2020. But even before that came out, the Q community was pretty certain that Hunter had flipped. So that's interesting to see that happen. Very interesting.
I can't wait to go back and watch all 5.5 hours of that. I'm probably going to read Stolen Election for Badlands Book Club tonight, by the way, 6 p.m. Check that out. We're covering Stolen Election, Ralph Pizzullo. This is the book that Laura Logan and everybody else were talking about. And Ash and I are having some fun with this one. Having a lot of fun with this one, to be honest with you. But after I'm done with that, I'm going to watch that, because just the fact that Hunter Biden can sit down and do a 5.5 hour interview is pretty interesting to me. Like, that's not an easy accomplishment. Knowing the things that Hunter Biden has to know given his dad and his what he's done and everything. I've got a feeling there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs in that interview.
I'd be interested to see what you find, because that is, I mean, I would be very interested to hear like the interesting clips. So
yeah. All right, let's jump into some Epstein stuff here. Angel Urenia, the spokesman for former President Bill Clinton, put out a statement regarding all the stuff we've been seeing recently and says the Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes a clear legal duty on the U.S. DOJ to produce the full and complete record the public demands and deserves. However, what the DOJ has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear: someone or something is being protected. We don't know whom, what, or why, but we do know this: we need no such protection, meaning Bill Clinton, I assume. Accordingly, we call on President Trump to direct AG Pam Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. This includes, without limitation, any records that may exist and are subject to disclosure under the Act, including grand jury transcripts, interview notes, photographs, and findings by the USA Attorney for the Southern District of New York, as referenced in the oath. Refusal to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion the DOJ's actions to date are not about transparency, but about insinuation, using selective releases to imply wrongdoing about individuals who have already been repeatedly cleared by the very same DOJ over many years under presidents and attorneys general of both parties. So that's not even the weirdest thing on the Epstein release. Did you see? This is the weirdest thing. I don't even know what to make of this.
I've seen a lot of weird stuff. I haven't looked that deep into it, but I've seen a lot of weird stuff.
This is absolutely bizarre. The DOJ released
Oh, I did see this. Chris Paul's post on this was epic.
A fake video. See if you can pull up Chris Paul's post. This is a fake video of Jeffrey Epstein allegedly hanging himself. What the fuck is this?
Yep. Yeah. So Chris just like repost, like he like quote posted it on Telegram. Telegram's always kind of a pain to move over. He said, you asked for 12 seconds of nothing and you got 12 seconds of nothing. Wow. Transparency.
that is literally the dumbest
doing drugs
I've ever seen right there.
Yeah. I mean, and Chris is right. Like Chris was saying this the whole time. He's like, if they release this, are you going to believe if they show you? No, like, doesn't matter what it is. Like if they showed you a video of two guys going in there and strangling him out, would you believe that either? Probably not, because it would probably have artifacts that would indicate it's AI. Right. So it's, do
you think that was their intention? Because they have a timestamp on there for August 19th or August, whatever the date was, 2019.
I have no idea, but there's just so much weird stuff. Everything is weird right now. I mean, the whole Turning Point weekend was weird. Like, everything just kind of gives me the creeps. Everything just kind of weirds me out. I don't trust anything. Like it is what it is, man. But we're in that really critical moment in the battle space where, like in the timeline, where I think like the enemy's panic is going to cause just chaos. And I think Trump feeds into the chaos. I think he wants the chaos because in this weird roundabout way, I think Trump finds peace in the chaos when everyone else doesn't know what the hell's going on. When we can't figure out who the good guys and the bad guys are, that probably means the other side can't figure out who the good guys and the bad guys are. And that's where Trump, I think, finds sanctuary, because he can navigate in that chaos very, very easily. And nobody else can. Like Lindsey Graham is out there being an idiot. Everyone else is out there being an idiot. And we're just sitting there kind of taking stock, taking inventory of who the idiots are. And it turns out, well, all of them are idiots.
I almost feel, Ghost, I almost feel like this video was released specifically to show people how absurd the idea that somebody hanging themselves from their knees.
I mean, it looks stupid. I mean, it just
so
looks
retarded.
It looks like fake. I mean, even the fact that it's super low resolution and you can't even tell what you're looking at. I mean, like, what is all that orange stuff? I don't even know what that is. Is that a blanket? All of it just looks weird. It's so low resolution, low grainy, And Chris, I saw, made a point about, like, remember how high resolution the moon landing was, and they beamed that through the air, like from the moon, and that was 50 years ago. It's like, yeah, this is just dumb. And then the same thing with the Brown University shooter, like the graininess of that stuff, like that footage. So yeah, I mean, I don't get really invested, like emotionally invested. I don't invest a lot of emotional capital into the stuff that gets people really worked up because I feel like all of it's just rugs, 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 rugs. I invest more in like the geopolitics because for some reason it's more comforting for me, even though it could easily be just as fake. So
Well, so when I think of that video and I watch that video and how absolutely utterly retarded that video is, the first thing that comes to mind is, this is something that, people might not have ever conceptualized how this would have happened. And when you go in and factor in, the cameras conveniently not working at that time, the releases that we've gotten, the hyoid bone in his neck being broken, which is more indicative of a strangling rather than a hanging.
Yep.
When you see the autopsy photos, or not the autopsy, but the photos of him being removed, and you see wire going around his neck rather than towels or bed sheets like they were told going up his jawbone, because if you hang yourself it's going to go up your neck, it's not going to come back. That's somebody standing behind you and pulling tight. And so when you see all these things and you think about the idea that Epstein somehow killed himself in a very controlled environment, and now they put out this video to show you how just absolutely absurd that idea is, we might be moving into the realm of some sort of disclosure.
Yeah.
And go ahead. You want to comment on that?
Well, just like there being a cover up under like a Trump administration. Not that I think that Trump's the one covering it up, but I'm just saying if there is a cover up happening, I mean, Epstein dies under Trump's watch, right, when he's president, and then the cover up happens under Trump's watch, right? I think that's kind of a useful mechanism because I do think that we are in a really dangerous spot where MAGA is creating celebrity out of government and is like looking at this government as something that is really great and something that we can celebrate. And like, these are the heroes of our society. And it's like, that's not the case. Like, and I'm not saying there aren't heroes in the Trump administration and there aren't people who have done good things. I'm talking about looking at agencies and institutions as something that are heroic and something that is like idolized. Some of these institutions may have a use and we can have those debates and discussions, but we shouldn't just treat them like they are divine entities that are going to like bring us salvation, peace of mind, because they're going to give us information that we kind of have already figured out on our own. Yeah. I think finding God is kind of like finding truth in yourself and finding truth on your own and not waiting for an earthly master to feed you that information. But that's a epistemology discussion that we will have another time. So anyway.
Yeah. Amen. I have one more story on Epstein. I do want to remind you guys that this photo was taken after Epstein's quote unquote death on Epstein Island by drone. And you can't confirm for sure, but that sure in the hell looks like very characteristically similar and appearance wise to Jeffrey Epstein.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if there was
I do have something domestic that I want to, like a clip I want to play because it's
hold on 1 second. I got
whenever you're ready. Is
it Epstein related?
No, it's random.
Okay,
so we can wait, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, hang on, because I got one more facet of that Epstein story, and then I'll give it back to you there. But I do want to talk about another sponsor real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Parents, let's talk about something very, very important. At a time when truth, faith, and free speech are under attack, there was one young leader who stood up and said, "Prove me wrong," and that leader was Charlie Kirk, and his message inspired an entire generation. It's why the Kids Guide team created the Kids Guide to Charlie Kirk to help you share the values that he lived by: faith, family, independent thinking, and courage to stand for truth. He wasn't afraid to say what others were scared to say out loud. His message was simple: don't silence people, debate them, prove me wrong. That spirit of open conversation and respect is something that our country desperately needs again. Inside the Kids Guide to Charlie Kirk, your kids will follow Charlie growing up in a Christian household. They'll learn how to speak, how he spoke up as a teenager, challenged one-sided narratives in school, and launched Turning Point USA from a single card table on a college campus, eventually inspiring millions nationwide. The Kids Guide to Charlie Kirk presents Charlie not as a flawless figure, but as someone who believed deeply in conversation, critical thinking, and the idea that Americans have far more in common than what divides us. If you want your kids to grow up with strong, unwavering values, start with the Kids Guide to Charlie Kirk. Visit charliekirkguide.com to order your copy today and give your children the truth and a role model who lived it. Again, that's charliekirkguide.com. All right. And thank you to charliekirkguide.com. And let's jump into the next story that I have here on the Epstein front. And I'm going to go to Keith Edwards for this post. Holy shit. More Epstein files were uploaded and accidentally, sure they were, leaked in one email to Assistant U.S. Attorney writes in 2020, quote, Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, including during the period that we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. Didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. And that period, I believe, is around 1993. If we look at the document, it says, for situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we are aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 93 and 96, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. He's listed as having traveled with, among others and at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 93, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and a 20-year-old redacted. On other 2 flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages of very small script, and didn't want us to be a surprise down the road. Let me say this as clearly and as convinced as I possibly can be. Trump was an informant against Epstein and Maxwell. Of course he's going to be on the plane. Of course he's going to be on the plane during the time frame for which Maxwell was charged and convicted. He was the informant.
Yeah, I also saw that anecdote specifically. I saw somebody right before the show started on X harping on the fact that he was alone on the plane with a 20-year-old. And I'm like, wait a minute, are we considering a 20? First of all, like, if you want to take that to like the nefarious framing, that like, oh, he was having sex with a 20-year-old. Is a 20-year-old like a child? Again, like looking at it in like the worst possible context. It's like they were presenting it like a 20-year-old was the same thing as a 12-year-old. And it's like, I mean, this is just, it's
stupid.
It's so stupid. It's so dumb. And I don't even, it sounds like there are other people on the plane anyway. Like it wasn't even just the 2 of them. But none of that even matters. And it's just so dumb. All of it's so dumb. And I do kind of see why Trump is treating it the way he's treating it. Although I think he is doing like a rope-a-dope, Peter Rabbit, don't throw me in the briar patch kind of act with the way he's treating the Epstein file. Because obviously he's the one who kind of spearheaded the movement against Epstein, throwing him out of Mar-a-Lago and all that. Interesting.
I did, and I just put the link in the chat. I did a like an hour, maybe an hour long dig on Trump being an informant, going all the way back to the Atlantic City casino when he was an FBI informant, worked with the FBI. He worked against the Russian mob.
Ukrainian mob.
Well, there were definitely Russians that were
Ukrainian / Russian, because it was the Soviet Union back then. So yeah, like Ukrainian / Russian, but yes, many Ukrainian and Israeli mobsters. Yes.
Yeah, I still believe that he probably had something to do with the Giuliani mob takedown, which is why him and Giuliani are so close. And we talked about this with Alpha, who has handled confidential human sources and informants before, and was talking about how the more you have a successful track record in being an informant, the more you're going to get the high profile type assignments and whatnot, and you're going to have more credibility going into your assignments, and they tried very hard to hide President Trump as a potential informant, going as far as invoking the Gomar response, which is we can neither confirm nor deny, when they were asked outright about Trump being an informant. And they said, you shouldn't be hiding this because we already have evidence that he is an informant. And just watch that video I posted in the chat. It's on my rumble.com/CannCon. It's about an hour long. And I think all of it, the most concise evidence I've seen so far was the dog that hasn't barked comment, right? Going back to the Sherlock Holmes thing. And the dog that hasn't barked is because he knew the people. He knew the assailant. And they were doing this 10 years after the Prince Andrew thing, 10 years after all the crimes, because they said he was with Virginia Giuffre for hours at the house alone and never did anything. That was 10 years before that email that they sent. So they were going back and playing this over in their head, trying to figure out who was the mole, who was the rat, and they figured it out. And that's what that email was. They figured it out that Trump was the rat against them. And good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That
showing
the FBI informant thing is a really fascinating rabbit hole, like going back to the 80s.
Yeah, it really is. And even, Washington Post has written about this. This is not like new information either. So, all right. Okay. I wanted to go to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to share this clip from Kristi Noem because this bothered me. And I wanted to get your take on it since you're a veteran and they just gave out like the stipend, like the 1776 stipend, which is generous. But let's just listen to what she says, and then we'll dissect.
Well, it's home for the holidays season. So, not only are we returning those kiddos back to their families that Biden lost, we also are saying that if you voluntarily want to go home now to your country, if you're in this United States of America illegally, we will give you $3,000 through the holidays to send you home. We'll buy you a ticket, give you $3,000 to go home. And that includes people that have not been detained, maybe have interacted with us, are detained and don't have criminal charges against them. Yeah, raise your hand. We'll help you get home. We'll facilitate it, and you might get the chance to come back to this country the right way someday. If you wait until we interdict you and detain you and arrest you and have to deport you ourselves, you'll never get the chance to come back. So go on the CBP home app and get the information, and we'll make sure you get home in time for Christmas.
All right, let's see how many people take that offer.
Yeah. So what's your knee-jerk reaction to that?
Me and Zach talked about this yesterday, and I'm not a fan of, upping the ante to $3,000, but I also understand what they're trying to do, and they're trying to lay, narrative cover for them that these people are self-deporting on their own and that it's not us. If you look at the numbers right now, there's over 2.5 million people deported. An overwhelming majority of those people are self-deporting. I think something like 1.9 million of the 2.5 million are self-deporting. It's going to cost us a lot of money up front, but in the end, in the long run, I think it's imperative. It's going to save us money. It's going to keep our streets a little bit safer, and it's going to help expose the trafficking networks that already exist in the United States. And by trafficking, I mean both drugs, human and sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to all that. I think that the messaging here, though, I just like calling a spade a spade. I called out Yehuda Kaplan earlier. A week after they announced that they're giving the soldiers $1,700, which Burning Bright made a great point. Why not just make it $1,800? Why not just make it $2,000? Like, why does it have to be $1,776? Like, that seems a little gimmicky. It's like, fine, okay, it's gimmicky. But then you're going to turn around a week later and be like, we're going to give the illegal invaders $3,000 a piece to self-deport, plus a plane ticket, plus the opportunity to come back if you qualify. I mean,
how much money does that save though? So if these people are self-deporting and you're
that's probably the calculation. That's probably the calculation.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's like you're gonna force people at gunpoint to pay taxes. They have no control over where that tax money's going, and then now you're doing the same. I mean, when Biden was doing this, we were calling it out. I'm just being consistent and calling out. You're giving cash to people who were paid cash to come here. You're now giving them cash to leave when you could just as easily say, hey, anyone who's caught in America illegally after December 31st will be put on a list and you will never be allowed in the country, even as a tourist, for the rest of your life. Like, that to me would be enough incentive to leave. Like, you will never be allowed back, even as a tourist, for the rest of your life if you're caught here after December 31st. Use the stick, and it's at Christmas. People are struggling like financially right now. People are struggling to pay their bills. They're struggling to give their kids a nice Christmas. I don't like it. So that's just how I feel. Shipwreck, has been harping on stuff like this a lot. And I think she's right. When I haven't heard her take on this specifically, I'm just like other stuff. Yeah, it's like I think people are just kind of fed up with our money being ripped out of our hands, our hard-earned money, and then just thrown out the window and given away.
I agree that the optics on it are bad, but again, I think that if you actually go below surface level on this, you'll see, and I'm sure by now, 600,000 deported by ICE, not self-deportations. And I saw somebody in the chat earlier asked 1.9, what's reported? 1.9 million self-deportations versus I think 625,000 forced deportations. And so by now, Kristi Noem has got to have a pretty good idea of, the average cost per deportation. And if that average cost per deportation is above $3,000, then this would be the logical step, is to, instead of now granted, there's going to be other administrative fees that come into the deportation process. So it probably have to be like $6,000 or $7,000 per deportation in order to justify this $3,000 increase. So I do think that if they are doing this, there is some sort of a financial incentive, and you can also factor in how much it's costing us a year. Depending on where you go to look, they say that illegal immigration costs the U.S. taxpayer anywhere between $5 billion. I've seen numbers as high as $60 billion per year. I think they even go higher than that, depending on, if you're looking at like the council, CAIR, Immigration Council Against Immigration Reform, or whatever it's called. I can't remember what exactly it means, but I understand the optics. It is a bad look, to say, here's $3,000. I totally get that, but I think I think it also it's also better optics when it comes to election time to say, hey, look, far more people are self-deporting than the raids that we're seeing that the left is trying to piggyback off of. So I'm kind of torn. You can see both sides of the argument on that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get the pragmatism. I fully expect that that's the underlying logic. It's just first principles, because pragmatism is a slippery slope. Pragmatism, you can get to look, if we drop this bomb and kill all these people and destroy this entire city, it'll save, we'll kill 100,000 and we'll save 10 million from dying. It's like that. Those are the kind of games that pragmatism leads to. So I get a little wary about it. I understand the argument, and I understand that we're talking about people without criminal records. The people who are coming forward are probably people who are earnestly decent people in the grand scale. I get all that. But I also think that getting rid of the earnestly decent people who aren't actually causing problems shouldn't be the priority. So I don't know. It's the timing right on the heels of giving the soldiers the 1776. It's because I think Burning Bright made a great point. I thought it when he said it. I was like, that's a great point. Why not just make it $2,000? Why does it have to be a gimmicky number? And then you're giving almost twice as much money to the illegals. Again, we called it out under Biden, so I got to call it out under Trump. Yeah. So
listen to this. Lencana 59 put this in the chat, and I just double checked it real quick. Again, using the large language machine, ICE estimates the average cost to arrest, detain, and deport a single undocumented migrant cost approximately $17,121. So paying them $3,000 to GTFO on their own is an absolute banger of a deal.
Yeah. The only question I think that I've seen John just laying into everybody online about it is why do we pay taxes? That should be at every single press conference. Trump should be asked, Elon should be asked, every person in the administration, past and present, should be asked, why should we pay taxes given everything that this government has done, not only to the world but to us? It seems like it's like giving an addict a bag of heroin. It seems like you're enabling, you're handing a child over to a pedophile. That's what literally in some cases paying taxes seems like you are feeding the beast in the worst possible way. And I think that is a discussion that deserves to be at the very top of the pile of things to discuss. Because I think it'll hear
zero argument for me on that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I get that, but we should get comfortable talking about it. I mean, look at how far we've come in discussing Israel. We should be talking, why should we pay taxes to a government that is so abusive towards us?
Amen. All right, we'll land the plane here. I got a couple more stories that I'll save for tomorrow. Makes my Christmas Eve morning a little bit more enjoyable, I guess, that I can maybe sleep in for an extra 10 minutes. Garden Guy says Hess family sold to Chevron, finalized in July of 2025 for $53 billion. I did not know that.
Yeah. And Garden Guys. I appreciate you pointing that out. Yes, you're 100% right. Chevron was the one that bought out Hess. The deal was finalized. They went to court. They fought it over. And then immediately, like within days after getting that court ruling, they were given an exemption by Trump. Citgo, however, which is owned by PDVSA, also got an exemption from Trump both in 2017 and then again this year. And actually, if you real quick will share my screen, this is from 3 days ago. Trump and Maduro continued in tandem. The U.S. Treasury Department just extended the Citgo petroleum exemption until February 3rd. So there's like even more evidence. I mean, and this is Citgo, which is owned by Venezuela. So Citgo, and you're right about Chevron. Chevron was the one who got Hess. It was Chevron versus Exxon. Citgo, though, is Venezuela, and they just got their exemption extended until February 3rd, 2026. So
Citgo and Chevron now have exemptions through Venezuela?
I don't know, but I don't know if Citgo has. Yeah, I guess it does. It says
Chevron's the one that has that crazy deal where they can't actually they're paying in crude oil, right?
Yeah, Chevron has the crazy deal where they're paying PDVSA in crude oil, and then Citgo, it sounds like, has some sort of a similar kind of exemption where they're allowed to they're allowed to do it. It says that it prevents. So they have protection of shares from Venezuela's state-run Citgo Petroleum Company, which prevents any sale or transfer without express authorization from Washington. The measure freezes the progress of judicial auction in Delaware, compelled by the Biden administration in 2022 and 2023. Because Biden in 2022, they tried to force PDVSA to sell Citgo to, I think it was Amber Energy, and they're still trying to do it right now. There was a court case about it like a month ago. So they're trying to force PDVSA to sell their company. This is, socialism. We accuse Venezuela of being socialist, and yet our courts are trying to force their state oil company to sell Citgo to an American company. It's really, really sick and
so fascinating.
Yeah, perverse.
All right. Brett Hour says, this Christmas, remember the gay and genocidal government in Canada now puts warning labels on sugary food. This confirms that they are healthy. Enjoy. I'm still not going to eat a whole bunch of sugary foods, but if it's pure sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup and all the other fake sugars, it's probably a little bit better for you.
That is funny that they label. I didn't know they label sugar as poison.
That is pretty funny. I mean, good on them for actually doing that. Probably doesn't go well with their maple syrup sales. Guys, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. A little over 3,500 people watching, 984 thumbs up. Deeply appreciate it. If you're new in the chat, always pop in and say hello. Ghost, what do you got coming up, brother?
I pre-recorded last night in the middle of the night, way too late. My show this afternoon, so there'll be a little bit of, you'll get some of my takes again. Maybe even a little delirious. And then Ash and I'm going to try to pre-record Breaking History with Matt. We were talking about just doing like what was going on in the world the night that Jesus was born. Like what did the world look like? So we might try to do that if we can. That may not happen, schedule permitting. And then Ash and I a few weeks ago pre-recorded our Chosen special, the Choice special with Bay Theater Dave and Jackie. And I believe it's 2 different episodes. One's going to air on Christmas Day, like normal time. The other one's going to air New Year's Day, normal time. And then I think they're actually going to air one of the episodes tomorrow night, like Christmas Eve. So great. They were great episodes. They were great shows.
Fantastic.
Love doing it with Bay Theater Dave and Jackie. So check those out.
I was texting Ash last night. I just finished the 2 episodes where Jesus changes Simon to Peter, names him the Rock, on which I go.
Oh yeah. So you're still watching it the first time through.
Yeah, and then I ended last night with the part where Peter forgives Matthew, and like Bro, I was balling, man. Like I have been loving this. The guy that plays Jesus is so perfect for that role. Like,
Yeah. Dude,
oh, man.
I was telling Ash last week that like my daughter, like I've been struggling a little bit because my daughter, like the kids today, the shit they watch is so messed up. It's like the Netflix and all, like it's all a cult. It's all witches and zombies and vampires and all that. And we don't let my daughter watch really most of that stuff, or really any of it. But all of her friends watch it. You go to the Halloween parties, the kids are all dressed up like it. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And but you know, I've been talking to her about Jesus a bunch, and she was in the Christmas pageant the other night, and she was learning all the songs, and she was asking me about like why in every single song that we're singing do they talk about the shepherds falling on their knees and being like scared, and why are they scared of the angels? And then I showed her that scene that you'll see when we watch the show tomorrow night. Actually, I played it as the intro to my show this afternoon, and when I showed it to her, and then we listened to this like oh Holy Night, it like clicked, and she was like, oh my gosh, I understand now. And now it's like she only wants to listen to oh Holy Night. She only wants to talk about Jesus and the angels. She doesn't want to talk about the zombies anymore. That probably will be short-lived. I'm sure we'll go back to other stuff, but I don't know. It's like it was a great way to subvert like the Netflix bullshit that they're shoving down these kids' throats. And I appreciate the chosen people, the chosen production team for giving me that tool that I could use with my child. So
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic to see it put that way. And the worst part is I know what I know what it's going to culminate to, and I know I'm emotionally preparing myself for this. You know, it's going to be like when I watched The Passion of the Christ back in, what was it, 2003 or 2002, somewhere around there. I'm emotionally having to prepare myself because I know I'm going to be absolutely devastated. But yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And but as we get out of here, let's stay tuned for DPH. Wait, today's not Wednesday. Stay tuned for Daily Herald, excuse me, coming up at 1 p.m. Ash and I will be doing stolen elections at 6 p.m. And I'm going to have some reruns going over on my channel from Georgia election interviews that I've done historically. Because I've got to get hours in. I just got accepted in the creator program, so I got to get some hours in. So if you guys are bored during the day and you want to check that out, otherwise stay tuned here at Badlands Media for some incredible content. And you said you've got a geopolitics with Ghost coming up this afternoon at 2.
Yeah, 2:00 this afternoon, pre-recorded, but yeah, we covered plenty of stuff. So
awesome. All right, guys, take care. God bless. And if I don't see you tomorrow morning for Christmas Eve, if you guys don't tune in tomorrow, have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy the time with your family, and remember, Jesus is the reason for the season.
Absolutely.
And, we'll see you
Merry
guys later.
Christmas.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest Made in America sale ever. We just put huge discounts on products made right here in the USA. My Pillow bed pillows, body pillows, go anywhere pillows, bolster pillows, all made with my patented adjustable fill. Mattresses, mattress toppers, mattress pads, adjustable bed frames, mattress foundations, and so much more. All made right here in the USA. And now we're expanding our USA products beyond just quality sleep. Like the cross I wear every day, now available in both men's and women's. We even have USA-made socks. And are you tired of being tired? Try our new health beverage, Rev 7. Or how about my coffee, the greatest coffee ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get deep discounts on all these products. Plus, for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.